and now we move over to New Orleans. So
Yeah.
we've got the three NFC South teams in a row. And I also was kind of surprised a little bit, but maybe not so much. Maybe this is part of the reason that Sean Payton, saw the writing on the wall with Drew Brees leaving. And the roster, I got to tell you, there were some pretty good players, but I don't understand some of these contracts that Mickey Loomis was giving away the last few years. I was looking over their deals, and they don't look very good at all. A lot of these contracts are to now, sure, they got some pretty good players, but they also have some marginal players with terrible dead money deals. It's just not, so there's not a lot of movement that could happen. They have the worst cap space in all the NFL to boot. They don't have a quarterback. They have basically one wide receiver in Olave. They have one running back in Kamara. They like Jawan Johnson, but if that's your top tight end, again, and the offensive line, boy, the offensive line has just been, a couple of years ago, it was one of the better offensive lines in the NFL, and it's a disaster right now. Outside of Ramczyk, it's not very good.
Yeah, I think Teron Armstead meant more to that team than anyone ever realized. Durability was always a question with him, but when he was on the field, I felt like he was the glue that held that entire unit together. The interior's a mess right now. It looks like Cesar Ruiz was a complete botch of a pick. Andres Pete is always among the league leaders in pressures allowed per game when he's on the field.
Yep. And McCoy's not getting any better.
Yeah, Trevor Penning, their first rounder from last year, missed most of the season with an injury. I think he had one start in the last game of the season, played at a decently high level. But yeah, right, he got hurt again.
Yeah.
So what's the future there? He was a swing for the fence type pick from that Northern Iowa program. Buffalo used the same templates, drafting Spencer Brown a few years ago, who's playing right tackle. That has not worked out to this point, in my opinion. So again, like Carolina, and this is another reason why I say the door is open for someone to take something in the NFC South. And if I had to put my money on someone in this division running away with it, it's Atlanta, only because of the amount of flexibility they have with the salary cap and some of the pieces that they could get to fit that Arthur Smith mold on offense, right? We talked about if running back Josh Jacobs or running back Saquon Barkley shakes free in free agency. Like that's
Lamar Jackson.
Trade for Lamar Jackson. If there's ever a time for that franchise to go after, I know we already talked about Atlanta, but it stems from the idea that New Orleans, this was their division for a long time. But you lose Armstead, you lose Breeze, you lose Peyton. The one thing they can fall back on, the defense is still a solid unit.
They have good edge rushers.
They do.
And Demario Davis in the middle.
Good linebackers. I love Pete Werner, too. Lattimore is a credible number one corner, right?
Caden Ellis actually had a nice season, too, at linebacker.
Yeah. There's talent on that side of the ball. And in this division, it could probably even, the strength of that defense could be exemplified even further because of the lack of talent in Carolina, in Atlanta as of right now, and Tampa Bay if Brady goes. So what do they do? I say you lean into this. I say you lean into.
But we just talked about quarterback with Carolina. Is New Orleans in the same situation? Jameis Winston is on contract. Do they bring in another guy to compete with him? Dalton is a free agent. Do they use their pick at number 10 on a quarterback?
Yeah.
What are they going to do? What do you think they should do?
Yeah, Greg, we've talked about 10 teams so far, and we've mentioned quarterbacks 6 times. And this is what I mean. I'm writing up a free agency piece right now for somebody else, and the amount of demand for quarterback play in the NFL right now is higher than the supply, probably threefold. And there's more demand for quarterback play in the NFL right now than I've ever seen in recent memory, I should say. Right, just between players retiring.
Yep.
First rounders not working out, and last year's weak quarterback draft class. You all of a sudden have all these teams searching for a quarterback, and New Orleans is in there. You can easily say, hey, use your pick on a quarterback. Who's going to be there? I would imagine by the 10th pick, I think you're going to see 3, maybe even 4 quarterbacks off the board already.
And so somebody's got to take that. We're going to get him next year approach.
Yes, yeah. And I think the 2 teams we just got done talking about, it might want to be them. The only reason I say New Orleans might be want to be a little bit more aggressive than a team like Carolina is because the defense, in my eyes, is championship caliber. And if you can get a quarterback good enough, it's a move that I think could help the team overall more than a team like Carolina.
I don't know this whole because with the Saints, the issues when we're talking about if they don't use it on a quarterback, again, they must bring in some better talent on the offensive line. That's a given.
Yep.
They only have Olave at wide receiver. Thomas, I mean, I don't even know if his career is over or what the deal is, but they're both free agents, Landry and Thomas, and they can't afford them anyway. I don't even know if they would bring him back. And then you have the secondary. Now, the safeties and Lattimore, that's a really good three, but they've got issues everywhere else. I mean, Debo hasn't really worked out so far. I mean, he's still young. Roby looks like he's kind of done. We've seen better days out of Roby. Now, Taylor's a young kid. Do you like Taylor? Do you think Taylor can develop the second rounder from last year?
I think Taylor, Adebo, and Lattimore, there's something there with those three guys. And Taylor definitely, he had glimpses, really aggressive, but that size-speed combo, the ball skills, he showed enough against some of his best competition. I thought he played Mike Evans exceptionally well this year, Chris Godwin. So I like what he shows. A rookie corner, not everyone's going to come in and play like Sauce Gardner in year one.
Yeah.
But I think there's enough there in the secondary to say it's good enough.
It's good enough for now.
Yeah.
So offense is really what they're going to probably look at more than anything.
Offense, and they have a couple of defensive tackles that are free agents.
Yep.
So that could be a hole that they don't want to create. If they want to lean into their current strength, you might want to go D-tackle and with this pick and just really lean into the defense and try to be that team that ranks top 5 in defense, and hopefully you manufacture a top 20 offense to give yourself a shot at the division.
All right. So, by the way, they also have to re-sign Davenport.
Yeah, I have him. I think he's going to leave town. I think he'll leave town. I don't think they're going to be re-signing him.
Because they have Turner.
Yeah.
So hopefully he'll
Turner
replace.
Right. And
they have Granderson. So
that's another spot I think you could probably see them attack at some point in the draft.
And they also have to re-sign, like you said, 3 defensive tackles. And P.J. Williams also has to be re-signed. But at this stage of his career, I don't think that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Okay. And by the way, we should say this because I actually we kind of confuse things up a little bit here because we're talking about the teams in order, but let's recall that the Saints have traded the pick to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yep, that's a good point.
So they don't have the pick at number 10.
Yeah, they're not getting the top 10 pick in this draft.
No, so they're not getting a quarterback at number 10. So that even makes it much more difficult to understand what they're going to be able to do. Right. And this is not a good job. I mean, Allen might wind up still being the head coach next year.
Yeah. I mean, who's going to want this job?
I wouldn't want this job.
Both these jobs, Carolina and New Orleans, it'd be a tough spot to go in there and breed success.
Yeah. So, because let's keep that in mind. We're doing this in the order of the team's win-loss record. And look, they got Olave out of the deal, right? That was the Olave pick or the Penning pick?
Well, it was both. There was multiple trades.
Okay.
They kind of went back and forth. So you could really say that they
so they got one and they kind of we don't know about the other one yet.
Right.
So that's still up to debate and whether or not they made the right move. But this is something that, look, they've known this since they made the move, and maybe they just ride Winston for another year and look at next year's crop of quarter, because they're not going to – who in the second round and third round? Look, we just saw Brock Purdy. He's still playing, and he hasn't lost yet. So is there a quarterback – that any team, including the Saints, because you got to believe the Saints are probably going to use up one of their picks on a quarterback. Why not? I mean, I don't know. Maybe they don't, but it would make sense that they would add a quarterback because Winston's the only guy on contract. So who could that be?
Someone that makes sense for me, but he wouldn't be a factor next year is Hendon Hooker. I would say 2023 is basically going to be a redshirt year for him. So, in relation to your question, if you're saying, hey, we want someone that could be a factor in 2023 because Hooker is going to be recovering from that torn ACL, keep an eye on Tanner McKee, someone that is a
Yeah.
pure pocket passer, throws really tough situation at Stanford last year, poor offensive line. And when he was right, when he had time, he was very successful. And there's going to be people in the league that love his arm, his throwing
Could
talent.
he be a
And
second rounder?
that's his ceiling. I think that's as high as he would
Okay.
go.
Yeah.
And that it is possible. Economically, it's a better deal too. When you pick quarterbacks in the second round versus the first, it helps the salary cap in the future a lot more than trading up into round one and trying to get somebody. So Tanner McKee's definitely a name I would
Yeah.
stay clued, kind of keyed in on round two.
Yeah, because that's the other decision is if you're going to draft, if you're a team like the Saints that need a franchise quarterback and you're going to draft a McKee in the second round, you better be doing that with the idea that you really believe he could be your franchise quarterback.
Correct.
Because
Yeah.
otherwise, just wait till next year. And then just
Right till
use
next
that
year.
second round
And
pick on somebody really that you need on the roster, like
right.
another offensive lineman.
Right. Yeah, and if you want to make this draft about 2023, like I said, you lean into the defense and hope that Winston can hold on this year, right, in a down division. But if you want to think more long term, that's probably the best
It
move is
has
go
to
after a
be.
quarterback.
It has to be. It has to be long term. They can't be thinking about it just because I was trying to make the playoffs, the division. Come on. I mean, they have to be thinking long term in New Orleans right now. But still, it doesn't mean, look, if they like McKee and think that he can be the franchise guy, then get him. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
I got no problem with that.